Welcome! In previous lectures, we covered volumetric advanced output and did some code refactoring inside of our material. This is what we currently have. We already have some basic clouds on our sky. And there are still more things that we can do to make our clouds to look much better. And the node that we're going to use to help us to do that is called Cloud Sample Attributes. So I'm going to double click to open my cloud material. And I'm going to find an empty spot, right mouse button click and type in cloud. So this is what this node is called, Cloud Sample Attribute. I'm going to bring it out. And there are many sockets here we can use. If you use your mouse to hover over this node, you can see the command written for it. The commands are pretty thorough, so give them a read if you want. Here I'm going to directly tell you which socket we need, so it's this norm altitude in layer. As the name suggests, you'll give us the altitude info of our cloud. For the bottom part, instead of giving us a really large number, the output result will be 0. For the top of our cloud, it'll give us a value of 1. With this valuable information, there are many things that we can do with it. And here's how I like to use it. So I'm going to plug the mask that we have into the alpha socket of a lerp node. And the value inside of socket A can help us to erode the clouds at the bottom. And the value inside of socket B can help us to create more randomness for the top of our clouds. And we'll blend these two values together for the center part of our clouds. By doing this, we should be able to have more interesting shapes. Alright, that's the theory part. Let's start coding. Back to my material. First, I'm going to hold down L on my keyboard to bring out a lerp node. Then I'm going to drag out this norm altitude in layer. Then I'm going to run it through a power node. Then promote this socket into a scalar parameter. I'm going to call this one altitude mask contrast and give it a default value of 1.5. So this value here can help us to determine where the bottom is and where the top is. I'm going to place it into the cloud settings group. And the sort priority, I want this to be above the 3D noise settings. So the value for this one is 30. I'm going to set this one to 26 and plug this one into the alpha socket. Alright, that's the mask part done. Then I'm going to drag these nodes to here and move them up. Next, we'll need to create the values for the bottom and the values for the top. And for that, I'm going to use our 3D nodes. So I'm going to select all of these nodes and move them to here. Move these nodes again. Now I'm going to sample our 3D noise twice, one for the top and one for the bottom. I'm going to take care of the upper part first. For this vector parameter, I'm going to change its name from 3D noise settings to 3D noise upper settings. And I'm going to change its sort priority to be 40. And the rest can remain the same. Then I'm going to move to the output. So now what's coming out of this socket is no longer the final output of the 3D noise. I'm going to cache this value here, and I'm going to call it cached 3D noise upper output, and I'm going to disconnect this pin and move this final output to here. So what's coming out of this lerp node will become the final output now. Then I'm going to use the name reroute node and bring out this upper output, plug it into the socket B. Alright, that's the upper part taken care of. Now it's the bottom part. So I'm going to move back to the empty spot. Then I'm going to select all of these nodes. Then press Ctrl+D to duplicate them. And move them to here. So these nodes here will be for the bottom part of our clouds. And I'm going to change the name from upper to bottom. And change its sort priority to be 30 now. So this one should be above this upper settings. And for this one, I'm also going to make use of this alpha channel. So to provide it with more randomness, I'm going to use this upper noise to distort the bottom noise. First, I'm going to change the name. So instead of not used, I'm going to change it to distortion amount and give it a default value of 1. And same as everything else, we'll need to scale this value down. So I'm going to divide it by 100. Then bring out a multiply node. And the value inside of socket B, I'm going to right mouse button click and bring out this cached 3D noise upper output and plug it in to the socket B. And to avoid any crisscrossing wires, I'm going to cache the value in here. So type in name reroute node again. I'm going to call this one cached final distortion amount. And I'm going to use the cache node in here. So this will be some UV distortion. Before we plug this XYZ into the UV socket, I'm going to drag out this pin and use an add node. And right mouse button click to bring out this final distortion amount and plug this into socket B. And plug this into the UV socket. Then for the final output of this, I'm going to use another name root node. So this will be the cached 3D noise bottom output. And I'm going to move to this lerp node, right mouse button click to bring out this bottom output and plug it in to this A socket. Then I'm going to organize these nodes again. So all of these nodes are for our 3D noise. And move these two up. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to click apply and back to my level. These are my new shapes for the clouds. So I'm going to double click to open this material instance and scroll down to this 3D noise bottom settings. I'm first going to take it, then I'm going to increase its strength. And now you can clearly see the impact it has on the bottom part of our clouds. Alright, I'm going to decrease the strength. And same thing goes for this upper settings. So if I increase this strength, and we can clearly see the impact it has on the upper part of our clouds. Alright, I'm going to decrease the strength as well. Then I'm going to start tweaking, and I'm going to begin from this 2D texture mask settings. First, I'm going to increase its scale to somewhere near 65, I think. I'm also going to change this cloud pattern radius just to make my cloud a bit larger. Alright, something like this. Then for this pattern softness, I'm going to increase it to somewhere near 1.5. And for this altitude mask, changing this value will also alter the look of our cloud. So if I decrease the value, you can see this is the shape I get. And if I increase the value, we'll get a different shape. So I think a value of 1.5 is reasonable. This value can help us to determine where the bottom and the upper part is. Then for this 3D noise bottom settings, I'm first going to decrease its scale so that we'll have more details. To somewhere near 61, I think. Then for the influence radius, I'm going to increase it a bit. Then I'm going to increase the strength quite a bit. Then increase this distortion amount. And you can see as I'm increasing the value, I'm beginning to see the whirly patterns for the bottom part of my clouds. And I think this looks pretty cool. Alright, I'm going to keep increasing its strength. Maybe the distortion is a bit too much right now. I'm going to decrease it a bit. So lower it down to 10. Then for this upper settings, I'm going to lower the scale of this 3D noise and try to tweak this influence radius a bit. Try to increase it or decrease it to see what are the results that I can get. And also increase the strength of it. Maybe keep increasing the influence radius for this bottom 3D noise. And keep tweaking its strength. And try to decrease the influence radius for this upper 3D noise. And decrease the distortion amount a bit. Right now I think it's a bit too much. Maybe try tweaking their scale a bit more. And keep tweaking the cloud pattern radius. And this 2D texture scale. Until I have something like this. I think this already looks good enough. And currently I'm using this red channel. By changing the channel used here, we also get different shapes. If I change this to green channel, and this is the shape that I'll get. If I change this to blue channel, different shape, and change this to the alpha channel, I think the alpha channel here might look better. I'm also going to keep tweaking this bottom noise. And we can also keep tweaking this advanced output depending on the look that you are going for. So if I decrease this occlusion to 0, suddenly our clouds become really stylized. And if I increase it, we'll have more of this realism. So maybe somewhere near 0.8. And this scattering contribution, if I lower it down, our clouds become darker. Maybe somewhere near 0.5, I think. Alright, I think I'm quite happy with the current look. I'm going to change this time of day to nighttime. And this is what I get. And change this to daytime, somewhere near dawn. And this is looking great. So these are the changes that I've made inside of my material. For this upper 3D noise, the settings are the exact same, except that I cached the final output of it. Then I duplicated all of these nodes and used them as the bottom 3D noise. So here I sampled this 3D noise twice and used the cached upper 3D noise to distort this bottom noise. And same as everything else, we'll need to scale this distortion amount down. Otherwise, this may become too much. Then combined with the 3D noise upper output as the UV distortion for this bottom noise, and then I cached the final output of this bottom 3D noise, then plug the bottom and the upper into the lerp node, and the mask is this norm altitude in layer, and combine all of these nodes together as the final output of this 3D noise. And these are my final values inside of my material instance. For the look of our clouds, every property here matters. So feel free to use this as a reference if you need, and don't be afraid to try out your own values. Alright, time for you to level up your own volumetric clouds. I'll see you in the next lecture.